Hello, dear students. Let's wait for maybe 1 or 2 minutes and we are beginning. Okay, we are beginning. Dear students, thank you for watching this webinar. Today we are beginning to speak about the second function of management, about organizing. Generally, as you might remember from the previous lecture, having crafted the strategy, you need, as a manager, somebody to perform the task which was set at the stage of strategy, and also you need somebody to help you to attain organizational objectives. And today we will speak about how to build structure. Generally, about the structure we will speak a little bit later, not today, but today we will speak about the general processes within organizing function. We will speak about delegating, we will speak about authority, we will speak about responsibility. Let's begin. Generally, as you must remember from the course, dear students, okay, I will speak a little bit later. It's very difficult for me to deliver lectures and to invite students. Thereafter, I kindly invite you not to be late at my lectures. After 5 minutes, nobody will be invited anymore. Okay. So, as you might remember from the course, microeconomics, it is possible for a company to increase efficiency with the help of division of labor. You might remember my previous example, not my, sorry, but the example from microeconomics. Then if the worker works separately, it was possible for him to produce something like 10 or something like this quantity of the small juveler piece. And if 3 workers work together, it was possible for them to produce more than 1,000 items. It is an outcome of division of labor. And but to use a division of labor, you need, as a manager, you need to divide some tasks and to say to your subordinates, you have to do these, you have to do these. Please look at this very picture. You are the red manager and your subordinates will have to perform some tasks. And when you are saying you have to do these, you have to do these, you have to do these, you are delegating some tasks. And you are beginning to use the organizing function of management. Generally, to attain any task, you need to perform some objectives. Please look at the picture at the bottom part of the screen. There are some tasks and there is a target, there is a result. And we have to perform some steps to attain these objectives. The result of I'm kindly ask you to switch, everybody to switch off your microphones. Okay. So when you are using organizing function, it means that you are building a structure. Why do you need a structure? Because it is rather difficult for you as for a manager to say every time you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. You can divide some tasks among your subordinates and delegate some tasks to not to personally to some subordinate, but to a position in your company. And with the help of these situation, with the help of using organizational structure, you will how to say, you will spend less time in future. And all a relationship connected with delegating tasks, and also you will use not only horizontal division of labor, but you will also use vertical division of labor. For example, you can organize a department, and you will organize not one but several departments. You will set a manager for every department, and in this very situation you will set objectives or tasks, maybe not to workers but to managers. In this very case you are at the top management level or at the middle management level, and you will set objectives or tasks for lower managers, and then they will set objectives and tasks for workers. And all these, the result of all this activity is an organizational structure. And as I told you, we'll speak about organizational structures a little bit later. There are two main parts of organizing as a function of management. First of all, it is dividing organization into some subunits, into some group of people, and then you have to put a manager to set a manager for every group of people, and then you have to set some objectives for every group of people. It is the first part of activities within organizing function. And the second part of activity is authority relationships. What does it mean? Authority, we'll speak about authority in details a little bit later today, but a little bit later. But generally, authority is possibility to use some organizational resources. In Russian, authority means полномочия. It means that if you set any objective for your subordinates, it is your obligation to support your subordinates with everything which your subordinates could need to perform the objectives, to perform the task and to attain the objectives. So, in other words, in this case, you have to divide all organizational resources among these departments, which were set at the step number 1 in this screen. Okay, let's speak about some terms which we need to discuss organizing function. The first important term is delegation. Here is the formal definition of delegation as a process. Delegation is the assignment of task and authority to a recipient who assumes responsibility for them. And so, in other words, it is a formal definition, and in other words, when you are saying you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, you are using delegation. And I'd like to stress one more time that usually tasks are delegated not to a person, but to a position in a company. In Russian, in this context, position means должность. What does it mean? It means, for example, our rector set some tasks to all heads of all departments, and he doesn't do like this. Head of management and taxation department, Professor Krasnokutskaya, you have to prepare some report. Head of finance I'm sorry, I forgot the new name of your department. International finance and international management, as far as I remember. Okay, so this department, Fedorenko Irina, you have to prepare the same report. Head of the third department, you have to prepare the same report. No, he just has to say, okay, all heads of departments at HPE has to prepare blah 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 report. That's all. This is the example when a task is delegating to a position. And generally, it is not possible to delegate to be a manager without the process of delegation, because please look at the bottom part of the screen, the words which marked in green. Marie Fallet, she said, okay, the general definition of management is to get work done through others. You won't do anything, mostly, you won't do anything by your hand. You will do something by your mind, and I think probably you will touch by your hand only keyboard of your personal PC, of your notebook. So it is a rather difficult thing how to delegate tasks. It is a rather big problem for a manager to delegate some tasks, and today we will speak how to do it in the most effective way. But to understand the process of delegating, we have to understand also two next terms: responsibility and authority. Just a moment. I'm sorry, it was some technical problem. Okay. The next important term within organizing function is responsibility. Here is, you can see the formal definition. What is responsibility? Responsibility is an obligation to perform tasks and to account for their satisfactory completion. What does it mean? It means that if you are a manager, if you say to your subordinates, you should do this, your subordinate should say, okay, I will do it. In this very case, he or she, how to say, got accepted responsibility for the performing this task. And the general question, you might think about it that it is rather easy, but just an example. You are a manager and you say me to perform some task, and I say, okay, I will do it. Who has responsibility for performing this task? Please switch on your microphone and answer. Switch your microphone on and answer, please. One more.
Manager?
Manager, yeah.
Not exactly.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Yeah, thank you. Both of them. Both of them. It is quite crucial to understand that you, as a manager, when you are saying to somebody, even to maybe you set the task or an objective, not to a worker, but to a manager, to another manager at a lower level. So in this very case, it will be more people responsible for these for performing this task, and it's very important for you to understand that it's not possible to how to say, to delegate responsibility. Even when even having set the task, you will stay responsible for their, I mean, even having set the task to your subordinates, you will stay responsible for their successful, for its successful completion. So, responsibility cannot be delegated. Responsibility cannot be delegated. You can delegate only performing some tasks. It is very important. Here is the example. Generally, when I was young, let's speak about one example, and then we will speak about this very example, which you can see at your screen. When I was young, I was rather surprised. It was some accident at a railway station, and the Minister of Railway Transport had to quit. And for me, it was very surprising situation. The problem wasn't connected with a minister, I thought, but think about it in other situation. Let it be some unpleasant example. It was some accident at your factory, and you are top manager of the factory, you are director of this firm, and some worker came drunk to his working place, drunk, yes, and he forgot to fix his working clothes, and his hand was damaged. And then your enterprise, after this situation, had to pay some extra money to this person, and then also it was some penalty. And in a month, you are reporting to the shareholders of the company. And is it possible for you to say, okay, we had a problem, worker Ivanov came drunk, and it was some accident, so we have to decrease the profit was decreased in this quarter. Who is responsible for this situation? What do you think? Who is responsible for this accident? What do you think? Please switch on your microphone.
I think maybe the worker, because of course we have, I mean, not we, this firm have the rules of, I mean, техника безопасности, не знаю, как правильно назвать это будет, that are that are the rule of the firm, and
No,
he.
Daniel. No, Daniel. Thank you. Who has another opinion? You're welcome, Ismail.
Actually, they have both of them. There is obligation and manager of and worker, and one of them is manager should control he is drunk or not, and the other ones he has a obligation, and he should make it to the obligation. He should not never ever come to work and drunk. And both of them.
Yes, thank you. Your answer is a little bit closer to the correct answer, but generally, okay. Your answer would be correct if there is only one manager, me, director, and this worker to this enterprise. But maybe somebody will add something to Ismail. Generally, Ismail is correct, but we have to add something to this.
I think that a worker will be responsible for that before his manager, and also this manager will be responsible for the person who is higher position.
Thank you, Ina. Thank you. Definitely.
Like chain.
Definitely, yeah. So generally, okay, just a moment. I'm switching back to our presentation. Here is the organizational structure. Okay, here only 3 levels, but generally, you know that all chain is responsible. The master of this department, the head of this department, is responsible for the head of shop, начальник цеха. The head of shop is responsible also to the manager, vice director on production cycle, and everybody is responsible, has responsibility for me as I'm a top manager, and I'm responsible for everything going on at our enterprise for shareholders, because any manager is just a manager. Maybe you remember our first lecture in the previous semester, Management 2, that manager is not equal to entrepreneur. So responsibility cannot be delegated, and when shareholders ask me as a manager why they are getting less profit, it is my responsibility, it was my responsibility to build a structure, to, for example, in this very case, to sign some instruction for head of every shop and for every master to check everybody before coming at his or her working place, to check working clothes, not only generally to check whether he or she is drunk or not, but to check everything, and if something goes wrong, it is totally the responsibility of top manager for not organizing these situations. So I'm stressing one more time, responsibility cannot be delegated. And here also the situation that had doctor in a hospital had some problems, but yes, it is a mistake of a nurse, but who is a manager, head doctor or nurse? Who must? Yes, it was a mistake on nurse, but he or she, I mean nurse, also will be punished for this. But you shouldn't be surprised if something goes wrong at your enterprise. You as a manager also will be punished for this problem. It is quite important to keep in mind. And here is the information mark with red, because it is quite important to understand that all managers responsible and accountable for all subordinates. Here is a picture. You are a manager, red, and you are responsible for everything going on in your company, for everything. And very interesting phrase of Harry S. Truman. Maybe you, somebody from you have watched a movie 18 Again, опять 18. And in this movie there is a wrong translation of this phrase. In this movie the translator translated it like bucks, like informal US dollar. No, buck stops here. Buck, it is like informal word to explain the situation. It's not my fault. It's not my, it is her fault, or it is his fault. In Russian, it is like informal word, I would say, atmaska. And at the wall of, or at the desk of Harry Truman was this phrase, the buck stops here. It means it's not possible. When you came to a president of the United States, it's not possible for you to say, it's not my fault, it's the fault of somebody else, I'm not guilty. So if you come, you are responsible about this process, you have to speak about, you have to account about everything within the process. It is crucial to understand. It is really crucial to understand. And that is why generally managers are so highly paid, because they are responsible for everything in their organization, for everything. And that's why you shouldn't be surprised about the very big salaries of managers. The next term which must be used in our lecture connected with organizing is authority, полномочия. At the bottom part of this picture, you can see in red the formal definition of authority. Authority is the limited right to use the organization resources and channels the effort of some of its people to perform tasks. So I decided to stress limited right. In this, from this definition, you have to, how to say, you have to keep in mind two important things. The first is a right to use organizational resources. It means that if you want, if you ask your secretary to provide you with a copy of some document, it must be obvious for you that you have to support him or her with the possibility to produce this copy. It must be a copier, for example, in his or her room, or it must be a possibility to use another devices. But it shouldn't be like this, that you set some objective or some task, and for your subordinate, it's not possible to perform it because of lack of resources. It is the first part of this definition, that authority, it is a right to use some resources. And the second part, limited. Limited means that it is possible to use resources only for this very purpose. It means that your secretary, it is not possible for your secretary to print, I don't know, some horoscope, for example, for her at the printer or at some copier situated in his or her room. So authority is a limited right to use organizational resources which the subordinate needs to perform some tasks. I see our time, we have only 2 minutes more, so I'm stopping my presentation here, and we are meeting in 5 minutes. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue. As I told you, it is the same situation with delegating, that usually authority is delegated not to a person but to a position. So when you are saying somebody, it's very rare situation that some authority is delegated to some person, usually to a position. It is the same situation with my, in my example, that any professor at our university, it is possible for any professor in our university to use classrooms for education process. So it is possible for me to ask to get a key from a room, to get a projector, to get a computer at our department, and then to deliver lectures for you, for example. Usually, all questions connected with authority is provided in a company with the help of some procedures or written policies, rules, and job description. In Russian, it is должностные инструкции. So, generally, I don't know, shame on me, but I think it must be written somewhere that any professor, any teacher can use classrooms for educating process. And generally, everybody has limits of authority. It means that even a top manager, it's not possible for a top manager to do anything she or he wants within a company. Everybody's authority is limited. And the next very interesting situation and very interesting term within our lecture is power. Power, it is the ability to act, for example, ability to use some resources. Power in this context means власть. So, generally, is it possible for me, theoretically, to get a key and to organize a party, for example, in a classroom? Theoretically, yes. Why no? It is possible for me to get a key and then to invite some friends, and that's all. So I have power to do it, I have possibility to do it, but I don't have authority to do it. Here is another example. For example, treasurer. Is it possible for treasurer to get some money from a company, for example, account? Yes, theoretically it is possible, but it's not his authority to do it. And in simple terms, we could say that authority, it is definition what he or she has right to do, and power is definition or determines what he or she really can do. And the most important part of our today's lecture is connected with the problems of effective delegation. Generally, it is rather difficult to ask somebody to do something. You will see it, you will face this situation, definitely face this situation when you become a manager. There are different ways of communicating with subordinates, but in any way it is rather difficult to say, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. You as a manager, you must have some special mentality to use this delegation process. And we will speak about the possible ways of changing behavior of your subordinates a little bit later, only having discussed all functions of management. But today, let's say that, okay, it is rather difficult, believe me. And now we will speak about some problems, some obstacles to effective delegation. First of all, let's speak about managers. Why it is written managers? Because you know that problems could be from both sides. From manager, it could be difficult for a manager to delegate some task, and also it could be some difficult for a subordinate to be delegated, you know. So first of all, we will speak about problems for managers, and then we will speak about problems for subordinates. Okay, the first problem, the name of this problem is I can do it better. You know that several years ago, I think even more than 20 years ago, one company in US, they conducted the analysis. They analyzed IQ, intelligence coefficient of managers, of workers, and of top managers. And they discovered that in average IQ of top managers is much higher than IQ of workers. Generally, it could be interesting for you to check your IQ. There are a lot of programs in the internet. It is possible to check your IQ for this purpose. If your IQ is more than 120, I would say it is good. It is good. My IQ is a little bit higher, but it doesn't matter. Generally, everything which is more than 120 is good. But to use these tests, you should not use anything except your mind. It's not possible to use paper or pen or something like that. Okay, so you are smarter than your subordinates. Does it mean that it is your obligation to do everything in your company? No, no, definitely not. It means that it is your problem to educate your subordinate and to help them to perform tasks delegated to them. It is your task. If you think that you can do it better than your subordinates, and if you do everything, you are a poor manager. It's not a right decision. Then, the second, lack of ability to direct. I told you it is rather difficult for a manager to say, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. You have to prepare your mind for being manager. Next, third, a lack of confidence in subordinates. Who is responsible for everything? You are, as a manager, I mean. That is why you can think like this. Okay, as far as I'm responsible for this task and for everything, I have to do everything. No, it is also a mistake. You have to believe your subordinates, you have to educate them, and you have to help them to perform all the tasks. Next, aversion to risks. And generally, it is close to the previous, but not the same. It is connected with risk. Somebody who is more risky in nature, I mean, it is easier for that person to delegate tasks to subordinates. Next, absence of selective controls. It means that you have to understand all managerial techniques which must be used for effective communicating. You know that delegating, it is only part of communicating. You have to, and we will speak about also the process of communicating a little bit later. It is our second module within our course. But the problems of delegating, of effective delegating, could be connected not only with managers but also with subordinates. First of all, the first subordinate can think that it is easier to ask a manager to provide him or her some support or help rather than make an independent decision and to find a way to solve the problem. It is easy to say, okay, what I have to do, but you have to keep in mind that the most valuable subordinates are those who, excuse me, who can solve all problems by himself or herself. Then the second, your subordinates can be afraid of some negative grades, like some punishment or something like that. Next, in some cases, it could be third point. It could be the lack of some information of some resources. The more difficult is the task, the more expensive is the equipment, information, all resources, I mean. So the subordinate could think that it's not possible for him or for her to get these resources. Next, the fourth, sorry. Your subordinate can think that he is too busy to perform the task. Okay, I think it's not my job. So we'll also speak about it a little bit in motivating how to solve this problem, but now I will set you only one example that the easiest way is to make everything transparent in your organization. I mean transparent that if everybody sees his or her responsibilities and responsibility of others, it wouldn't be possible for the person to say it's not my job. It's everybody's job, so it is your part of this job. The fifth, lack of self-confidence. Yes, it should be. It could be some problems with some personal characteristics of a worker, and you have to train. The answer is the same. You have to train him or her for increasing of self-confidence. And the last but not least is that everybody within the organization must be motivated enough to perform all the tasks. And all problems connected with motivating process will be discussed during the next lecture. Okay, thank you for watching, and now you are welcome to ask me any questions. You are welcome. Okay, does anybody has any questions? No. Okay, thank you for taking part in this webinar. Have a nice day. Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
Have a nice day.
Goodbye.
Thank you, bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Hmm.